Hi guys, I'm Bruce, I'm back. We are still unlocking wealth through index trading. In this video, I'm just gonna go through something that you must probably know, and then I want us to agree or disagree on this one. It's not something I really use, but it can be quite helpful. And I'm pretty convinced that if this thing is gonna work, then it has to be working with RP numbers and RP zones. And this that I'm talking about is the traditional price action. Traditional price action, I'm simply saying the price action that people are used to, which is support and resistance, supply and demand, right? Which is something like this, right? You go and draw your support based on what price did before. So you can see price turned here, it turned here. Because of that, you go and draw a support based on what price did here, right? And then when price comes back, you buy. Why do you buy? Because I saw price doing this previously. Do you see? This is what? Support. All you do, how to spot a support, you look at where price turned last, and then it came and turned at the same place again. Then you understand why is price doing that? This has to be the floor. So because of that, you go and draw a line joining those points where price turned last, and then you expect the price to turn again when it comes back, right? Perfect. So now I prefer to use those as zones. Why do I use them as zones? Simply because price will not always touch the exact point and then turn. So I prefer to use them as zones, right? Perfect. So now let's continue to explore. But one thing for sure that I will show you guys is, if you really look at where the price is turning, you will find that that was your RP zone or RP number, right? That's one thing I can be confident of, that this thing is simply turning at an RP zone or RP number. Can you see that? Which is what happened here and there. But support and resistance is simply this. So one thing for sure, how the market behaves is this: price will always repeat what it did previously. I've already shown you my ways of doing it, and what I'm trying to show you is that's not it. There must be something else that works, but my way works most of the time. The reason why I don't use the traditional price action is simply because you don't always get the support and resistance, and indices simply break past those points easily and then turn. For example, you look at this, you could have drawn your support there, right? Or you could have drawn your demand zone here. Those who use supply and demand know that this was broken and no longer holds, meaning they were expecting the price to go down, meaning your supply and demand would have failed you here. But coming to the RB numbers, would they fail you? Let's check. No. Can you see that? 24,900. So this thing was actually an RP zone. This was actually an RP zone. RP zones never failed you. Your traditional support and resistance, supply and demand, would have failed you. As you can see for yourself, I'm doing this thing from scratch with you guys here, right? So I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I'm saying my way is more accurate. It works more, right? Like I just showed you that this would have failed you, right? As a support and as a demand, it would have failed you. You look at this being a supply, right? As you can see, supply would have failed you because price did what? Seemingly broke out of the supply zone, right? But let's look at the RP supply and not RP supply, RP zones. It wouldn't have failed you. Can you see that? As you can see for yourself, it wouldn't have failed you. You would have been in some very good profit, as you can see for yourself, right? Okay, bingo. Even here to the top side, at places like this, how do you know that price is going to turn there? Since it's not a support, it's not a resistance, price has never been there before. Remember, support and resistance, they are based on what price did previously, but in this case, price has never been there before. As you can see, never has the price been there before. Support and resistance wouldn't work in this case, but RP zones and RP numbers, bingo, shit, they would have given you some good dollars. As you can see, price went all the way down, creating a PCP here and then going all the way down, right? Perfect. You look at this right here, bingo, it would have worked, right? As you can see, you would have banked on some cash. But now I want to show you something. This has to be an RP number and an RP zone. Look at that. Can you see that? 25,400. Price gets there and then it turns. Can you see that? So if you want to use the traditional price action, don't forget to use the RP numbers. Traditional price action does work, but not always. It does work, right? So it's just a cherry on top to have your traditional price action at an RP zone and an RP number, right? So going on and on and on and on. Let's see, I'm trying to spot a support or resistance. Oh, imagine in cases like this, how do you use traditional price action on stuff like this? How do you do that? I mean, look at this, right? Look at this. This is what a demand zone, right? It's a demand zone, right? This is a demand zone, as you can see. But this zone is too big. I mean, this is like $400. Let me just measure that. Yeah, this is like $500 on 0.01, which is too much, too deadly. But broken down, I'm pretty sure it would have done you justice if you break it down. As you can see, RP number, RP zone wouldn't have failed you, right? Perfect, bingo. You look at something like this, it worked perfectly, right? In this case, it worked perfectly. But look at something, this thing was simply working at the RP number, RP zone. What am I saying here? This is a resistance. Price was going up, rejected, came back. Because it was rejected before, price always repeats what it did previously when it comes to resistance and support. When it gets there, it respects the resistance, bingo, boom, we went down. But look at something, it was happening where? At an RP number. So you can still use support and resistance, but keep in mind RP zones and RP numbers. As you can see, you look at this, right? Price was simply repeating what it did before here. The reason why price went up is because it went up here. And look at something, it's happening where? Exactly at an RP number. As you can see here, it came back to the same place, RP number. You have a support, price always repeats what it did previously, but look at something, it's happening at an RP number. Can you see that? Bingo. Let's continue. Look at the same thing here, going all the way back. It happened here. Price went all the way down in this day. I'm sure it created a V, because you know how it works. It creates a V, one of the trades, and then went all the way up. Can you see it opened there, went down just to touch the RP number, and then went up. Bingo, shit. Look at this. The same zone that we found here, price was simply turning here because it was repeating what it did previously. It was already a support, price was just repeating what it did previously. And look at where this is happening, RP number, RP zone, right? Bingo. You look at stuff like this, price actually broke right here. Price did what? It broke where it turned previously. Can you see that? Here, price broke where it turned previously. But, and then if you're using, what is this? Supply and demand, you're gonna say, price is broken, the demand is broken, it's going all the way up. But no, for someone like me, I'm just waiting for it to get to the RP number. And then let's see, let's go to the RP number. We get to the RP number, which is 18,300, right? 18,300. Then when we get there, price does what? It turns. Can you see that? Bingo. You look at something like this, price is broken right here. Price broke past where it turned, right? The price broke past where it turned last, so you're gonna be like, we've broken, right? But for someone like me, I'm simply waiting for the price to get to the RP number, RP zone, and then I go in. And let's check it out, which is 600, right? 600. When it gets there, price actually respected the zone and then went up. Can you see that? Okay, perfect. So you can see I've actually showed you some tricks on Forex. Price always repeats what it did previously. Look at this. The reason why price turned here is simply because price was repeating what it did previously, which was here. But let's look at something here. Why is it like this actually? It's an RP number, guys. It's 17,900. Exactly 17,900. The price turns. So this thing works, guys. The RP numbers, RP zones will work. You just have to avoid being greedy and always trading. Wait for the best times. These things, you can never finish them. You still have more than 40 years of living. Don't try and make all the money for 40 years in a day. You will always make money using these things. Just be patient, wait for the market conditions to be perfect, and then you will make money. As you can see, this is a resistance, right? Price was just repeating what it did here. Price was just repeating what it did previously. But on top of that, we got to realize that, it was actually an RP number, right? Perfect. Things are working out. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. You look at this, right? Let's look at this. You see this right here. price turned here, and then here it came back and turned. Why did it turn here? It's repeating what it did previously, right? Remember, I said price always repeats what it did before, right? So now, look at this. We had price turning here. It was going up, came and turned here, right? And then price came back and turned at right the same area. Why is price turning there? It's simple, as you can see, RB number. Can you see that? Can you see that? Price always repeats what it did previously. But for us, because we know the secret of where these things happen, RB numbers, right? You look at something like this. Look at that. All I had to do was just to look at where price turned, draw a line, and then after drawing a line, you find that this was actually an RB number. Can you see that? Price here was simply doing what it did previously, which is turning here. Price comes back, you sell. Why am I selling? Price turned here before. On top of that, it's an RB number, RB zone. Price action, everything is just aligning. We sell, put a stop loss above, and then wait, and then money comes in. It's that simple, guys. It's that simple. Maybe it's just Dow Jones US that works with this. So let's just look at something else and see if you can prove me wrong. See if you can prove me wrong. Okay, I'd love to delete all these things. Oh, it's just a lot of them. It's just a lot of them. So I'm gonna show you where. Here I'm gonna show you resistance broken, right? Supply broken, right? Resistance, supply broken, right? RP number not broken. Can you see that? Supply, it failed us. Resistance, it failed us. RB number, nope. We are in good company with RB numbers, 13,600. Can you see that? We are in good company with RB numbers. Can you see that? Perfect. Bingo. Okay. Let me take it down to daily so that you can see clearly what we are dealing with. I said the supply and demand failed us. This was a supply, right? Those who know how to work with supply and demand know very well how it works. All you do is you cover the last candlestick where price turned, and then you expect the price, and then what they do is they sell when price enters the zone. And what I'm showing you is that thing would have failed you. But look at your RB number exactly on the dot. So guys, I'm very confident of my strategy. You cannot convince me otherwise. Resistance would have failed you, but RB number, our friend, a very good friend indeed. It's just like Jesus, a very good friend indeed, always by our side. Yes, just like Jesus, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. Just like Jesus. Always there for us. RP numbers, they are always there for us. You look at this. Here it actually worked perfectly, hey? I mean, your support and resistance, hey, it worked perfectly here, right? Perfect. It really worked. I'll give it to you. It worked. But did the RP number and RP zone fail? I doubt that. Let's see. Those ones never fail, man. Look at that. 13,200, as you can see. Let me delete this one and just have one. 13,200. RB zones. As you know, it goes 10 points in front and then 40 points behind. So you would be like, oh, price is where it turned last. Bingo. Secondly, it's at an RB zone. Bingo. Support. What's this? Resistance. Bingo. Supply. Bingo. RB zone. Bingo. You have so many reasons to sell this thing. You sell. To this day, it hasn't returned. Went all the way down. Can you see that? Perfecto, 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 perfecto. Let's come down to this level right here. And all I'm doing here, I'm using basic support and resistance, right? I'm saying price turned here before. Then I said coming back here to where it turned before. I know that price always repeats what it did previously. So because of that, I'll draw my zone and expect the price to turn there, right? But in that zone where I know it's a supply, it's a demand zone, it's time to buy. In that zone where I know that price always repeats what it did previously, I will be expecting the price to turn again when it gets here. But my entry, RB zone, brothers and sisters, RB zone, as you can see for yourself. You can see, you know what I'm trying to achieve. Can you see that? And then price shot up for some days, good profit. We're looking at about so much money. This was way too much money. $500 on 0.01. Okay, perfect. So you can see that this thing works, but it's just a cherry on top, as you can see. These are things that work in Forex, guys. If you are also trading Forex, supply and demand, let me just quickly touch on it and show you what we're talking about. All you do when you're drawing your supply, which is at the top, you just cover that last candlestick, you draw a zone, then you are saying when price comes back to the zone, it will turn, which is what happened here. You draw a zone, and then you say when price comes back, it will turn, right? Stuff like this. You draw a zone, and then you say when price comes back, it should turn. That's all it is. You draw a zone, and then you say when price comes back, it should turn, right? But as you can see, this thing is not always working. But RB numbers, RB zones, they are our good friend, just like the man himself, Christ Jesus. Look at this. You come, you draw, right? Price comes back because you have a demand zone, already you're expecting price to turn. You have a supply zone, you're expecting it to turn. But you know what you do, you wait for the RB zone. Bingo. Okay, let's just go all the way back. This one I showed you that it would have failed you, but it's the same thing, guys. There's nothing new, it's the same thing. You look at this here, right? Look at that. It's a demand, right? And then you look at this 400, didn't get there, and then 300, didn't get there, right? So in this case, it was just pure supply and demand that was gonna help you catch the move lower. And this one here was just a matter of price repeats what it did previously. The reason why one would sell here was based on that, but personally I wouldn't sell. I'll wait for it to get to the cherry on top. RP numbers, right? We look at stuff like this right here, right? You know it's an RP zone. First of all, you know this is a supply, right? It's also what? A resistance, right? On top of that, RP zone, bingo, you sell. And then what happened afterwards? You would have scored some good, how much was that? $550 on minimum lot. Can you see that? So you can see this thing works. Let me just look at the time. 26 minutes. I'll just touch on one more and then I'll be done on this one. Okay, where should I start? Let's start on weekly, right? Weekly supply failed, right? Because price broke out, right? Supply failed, resistance failed, right? Now that they failed, what's the next step? Simple. We wait for the RP number, RP zone, and let's see if they would have failed us as well. Going all the way to where price turned is 7900 RP number. Perfect. Okay, you see we are still on the same old stuff. Here we got, what do we have here? Demand, right? Perfect. Demand or support, right? And then where did the price turn? RP blah blah, right? RP zone. Remember it's 10 above and 40 below, right? Okay, perfect. Say, oh guys, busy. I'm actually doing this thing at night. As you can see, it's 12:41 a.m. doing this for you. After this, I don't expect you to be going around looking for a mentor. Let this video be your mentor. When you do things wrong, just come back to this video, right? Okay, bingo. Supply, what is this? Supply, resistance, blah blah. It still works, as you can see. Same thing here. Why is price turning here? Why is it turning here? Why is it turning here? It's repeating what it did previously. It's simply turning at your supply or resistance, right? And on top of that, it's a RP number and what zone? RP zone, right? Perfecto, bingo. As you can see, it works. We are in good company as always. Also stuff like this, you come here, you'll be like, why is price turning here? Simple, price repeats what it did previously. Because price turned here, when it comes back here, it will turn again. Same thing. But on top of that, there's something happening in the background. If you check, it's an RP number. Bingo. Perfect. I'm not gonna touch on trend lines, guys, but they work. Like I said, as you can see, those things also work. You can see price turned here because it turned there before. Can you see? So it does work. The reason why I'm not going to touch on trend lines is simply because you guys know all these things. Trend lines, what is it? You look at this, you join it with the next, you do this, you join it with the next, bounce, and then boom. Come on, see these things misbehaving. Tell it to stop misbehaving. Price came to the same place and then went up, boom, right? Would have caught it, so as you can see it works, right? In this case it wasn't in an RP number, but it works. Can you see that? Here it had seemingly broken out, but we are in good company with, look at this, it's 500 that I'm trying to catch. You can see RP zone, there you can see RP zone, right? So